Chapter 5 Commentary. The 5th chapter opens with a very fundamental question. Arjuna asks, should I renounce work or do work in devotion? Which of these two brings the greater promotion? It may surprise us that Arjuna still does not follow Krishna's logic. He still appears confused. Does Krishna really expect him to fight a great battle and then renounce and be renounced at the same time? To Arjuna's mind, as to most men's, these are contrary instructions. Indeed, there seems to be an eternal debate found in all religious traditions concerning the relative value of the contemplative versus the active life. Whether couched in terms like Sankhya Yoga versus Karma Yoga, or faith versus works, or knowledge versus devotion, the meaning is essentially the same. In this chapter, however, Krishna resolves the conflict by showing that renunciation and action in Krishna consciousness are neither contrary nor mutually exclusive, but complementary. Then Lord Krishna says, though perfection can be attained either way, work done with devotion is better, I say. To a materialistic mind, it may seem that the contemplative man, who does no physical work but lives in constant communion with God, is better situated than a man who works, although with devotion. But here, Krishna says that it is better to work hard in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Lord, and thereby be in constant communion with him. True renunciation, the Lord says, is not found in the giving up of work, but in the controlling of one's desires and aversions, the causes of attachment. It is mental equanimity in pleasure and pain, success and failure, that marks the true renunciate. It is perfect detachment that elevates one above the illusions of duality. This, in short, is the mystical teaching of the Gita. Lord Krishna continues, unless all your work is directed to me, renunciation alone is mere vanity. Whereas Shankara and the majority of Mayavadi thinkers reject all activity as Maya, Krishna and the Gita teach that working without attachment is better than giving up activity. St. Paul refers to this as being in the world, but not of the world. The answer lies in that high level of Krishna consciousness wherein even mental work fails to distract us from communion with God. Rather, holy work is contemplation in the best sense. Devotional work is actually a God-revealing act, an act with God within. This is what Lord Krishna is telling us. Although the same goal can be attained through any yogic process, Krishna here stresses the superiority of bhakti, love and devotion. By working for me with your senses controlled, success will be yours, and you'll arrive at the goal. By acting with senses purified through works of devotion, devotees quickly arrive at the goal, whereas with the other processes, especially impersonalism, which tries to render everything void, there are many difficulties. This subject is also discussed in the 12th chapter of the Gita. The difficulty with the impersonal path is simply this. At the time of realization, we have to abandon the impersonal conception, because God is, in his ultimate aspect, not impersonal. He is the complete whole, the supreme person. How can personality be lacking? There is nothing outside of him. I have personality, you have personality. How can the whole not have personality? The impersonal Brahman is said by the Isopanishad to be but the glaring effulgence of his transcendental body. And the 14th chapter of the Gita tells us, know that of this pure spirit I am the basis, the root cause of all, even Brahman's traces. Everything is emanating from him, just as sunshine emanates from the sun. Sometimes people think that devotees engaged in contemplation, whether through chanting or silent meditation, are leaving or neglecting the world, isolating themselves and seeking to escape what is commonly called reality. The truth, however, is just the opposite. Indeed, it would be truer to say that only the person who is Krishna conscious, totally integrated with the self, is in harmony with his neighbor, humanity, the cosmos, and God. The more we become unified and integrated with the self, the more we become available and open to others. In reality, we become one with the whole creation. This is not the artificial oneness of thinking I am God, nor an egocentric striving to become the center of everything. Rather, a Krishna-conscious person becomes one with the real center of all, God, by agreeing with him and living in harmony with his laws. Real oneness is a full surrender, being a perfect lover of God. God by any of his names, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, Jehovah, Krishna, is the center of all, and working for him is the truth that frees us from all reactions. This is why a pure devotee who never makes the mistake of thinking himself the doer is unaffected by work. Krishna uses the analogy of the lotus. As a lotus, though in water, never gets wet, a detached soul walks safely through Maya's false net. The image of a lotus in water is also used in many Buddhist analogies. One Buddhist text says, the Buddha is like a lotus, which is born in water and nourished by the water, and yet rises above the water and is not stained by the water. Similarly, though the Buddha has lived in the world and conquered it, he is not stained by it. But what does this mean? Is devotional service just a duty? Is it something that has to be done? Does this mean that we are unaffected because we are so detached from our actions that we do not even care for them? Is this something like the modern factory worker or a clerk who grins and bears this drudgery? I have to earn a living somehow. Such a worker thinks, and this is as good as any other way. I'll just work 8 hours and then forget it. I'll do it for money, not for enjoyment or interest. Such a negative attitude is obviously unsuited to spiritual life. Devotional service must be more than just the best use of a bad situation. God's way is always the best of all possibilities. He is perfect and complete, and according to Sri Isupanishad, everything he does is perfect and complete. If there were anything in his creation less than that, how could he be perfect? Furthermore, thinking that anything is the best use of a bad bargain leads to the mistaken conception that we can help God create a better world. But the scripture says that as he is perfect and complete, so too are all emanations from him, including this phenomenal world. God does not need our help to make his creation perfect, but perfection can be realized only by a perfected soul. For this reason, Christ said that his kingdom is not of this world, but within us. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The pure in heart see God everywhere in everything. The answer to the riddle of work lies in realizing that we should not work for any ulterior motive, not for salvation, not for material benefit, nor anything else. Work should be done as devotional service. It is an end in itself. We have to distinguish between the indifference of a lazy man who simply looks on and lets things happen, and the indifference of the pure devotee, who is fully surrendered to the Lord and his will. Though indifferent to results, a pure devotee works to his best ability. Externally, he appears to work like an attached materialist to his utmost capacity, but he leaves the results in the hands of God, having full faith that whatever he does is perfect. Devotional service is complete in itself, for it is identical with God. Being absolute, there is nothing material about it. For this reason, a devotee is happy washing Krishna's dishes, feeding his poor, comforting his sick, visiting his temple, or doing anything else useful for his service. It is for the privilege of serving him that the devotee is happy. Devotional service is an expression of love for God, the Supreme Person, who is love personified. Indeed, that whole creation is an expression of his love, being his Leela. Sometimes the word Leela, play, is misunderstood. People take it to mean something imaginary or without purpose. A better translation, therefore, would be enjoyment. Indeed, this is the actual purpose of existence. God's enjoyment in loving exchanges. This also better explains the Rasa Leela dance, which is a dance of love with no purpose other than God's enjoyment. After all, what would the Supreme Personality of Godhead have to do other than enjoy himself? He does not have to work for his living. No one can make him do anything. The ultimate motivation is his enjoyment in pure love of all creatures and creations. Since love is the motivation for the whole creation, it should also be the motive for all of our activity. Thus, feeding the poor, comforting the sick, and so forth become expressions of the love of God in us and through us. The love of God is fulfilled in us when we manifest it to others by service. Christ said that the first commandment is to love God with our whole being, and that the second commandment, like unto the first, is to manifest love of God by loving our neighbor as much as ourselves. It is God within the heart of all others who is lovable. Teaching this point, Christ said, "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto me, unto one of the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me." Sometimes people say that the ultimate reality is love. This hits close to the truth, but it misses an essential point. There cannot be love unless there is a lover. Ultimate reality is a personal God, the Supreme Person known as Krishna, Rama, Christ, Buddha, and many other names. This Supreme Person's nature or characteristic is love. His love is expressed in many places and in different ways in the Gita. Krishna calls himself the Father, the Friend, and the Protector, all personal relationships of love. A true yogi sees me in all things that be, and sees all living beings dwelling in me. He sees me in front and behind and between. Truly, I'm never lost to a vision so keen. Perceiving me equally in every breast, the heart of this yogi is always at rest. Love God is the only commandment that ultimately counts. At the moment of death, our main consideration will be what or whom we love the most. The supreme object of our love, be it God or a mother or possessions, will absorb our thoughts and determine our next birth, as the Lord declares in the 8th chapter. On what the mind dwells at the moment of death, one attains to that state when he takes his next breath. And then Krishna promises, one who remembers me without deviation invariably achieves his aspiration. Of course, perfect peace, shanti, does not exist in the material world. Men may talk very loudly about peace, but there is none. Even when nations are not overtly at war, there is no peace. Can we truthfully say that there is real peace on the streets of New York or Chicago or London or Moscow? Unadulterated, unshakable peace is possible only when we are at peace with God by surrendering to Him and agreeing to work under His direction and for His service. Krishna says, "But he whose desires are different from mine becomes entangled, and by illusion entwined." We create our own hell on earth by falsely thinking ourselves independent of the Lord and neglecting His instructions. We can be happy only insofar as we have conquered the negative rebellious forces within us. Content in the self, above lust, greed, and hate, the soul lives happy in the place of 9 gates. Even the material body cannot impede the happiness of the self-realized soul, who sees everything in relation to Lord Krishna. Then why doesn't everyone take to Krishna consciousness and to just be happy? What impedes our progress down the joyful path of God realization? The answer is found in every chapter of the Gita. Separate desires manifest as material hankerings and lamentations for sense pleasure. Maya, illusion, keeps us from enjoying the eternal bliss of Krishna consciousness that is our birthright. All our problems arise due to false identification with the material body or its extensions, family, business, country, and so forth. All our problems arise due to misuse of the mind and intelligence. The result of this misuse is ignorance, which manifests in a desire for sense gratification. In the final analysis, there is but one problem in the whole material world: Maya, forgetfulness of Krishna. Our natural existence is one of plain living and high thinking. Here on this earth, Krishna has freely provided everything we need for a happy life: land, cows, food, water, sunshine, and Krishna consciousness. With these, all of life's necessities are met. The cow provides health-giving milk, the bull tills the ground, and the earth yields grains and vegetables. With Krishna consciousness, we can chant the holy names of God, render devotional service, rest at the end of the day, and feel satisfied and happy. This is plain living and high thinking. This is proper use of intelligence. This is self-realization. It is certainly a misuse of human intelligence to create a society based on gross sense gratification. Materialists live with one aim: to exploit the material body. When our intelligence is perverted in the mad pursuit of sense gratification, we cannot control the mind, and when the mind is uncontrolled, it becomes our worst enemy, leading us down the broad road to hell. The human form of life is an opportunity given by God for self-realization. Krishna says, since he's in knowledge of bad karma, there's none. He works not and causes no work to be done. With knowledge, everything inauspicious is nullified. What is that knowledge? When one's enlightened with knowledge of transcendence, the destroyer of both nescience and false independence. Nescience is the absence of thought, and false independence is imagining you are independent from God or other people. Things appear as they are, in truth, dazzling bright, and my glory is perceived in realms of pure light. Devotional service is the knowledge that destroys both nescience and false independence. When we serve Krishna, everything appears right, perfect, because it is. This is our chance, but time is running out. We cannot say for certain that we will be granted even one more minute, What is to speak of 5 or 10 or a day or a year? Nothing is as certain in this world as death. As sure as death is a common expression. All the money in the world cannot buy us 1 second beyond our allotted time. Therefore, those who are intelligent are eager to use this valuable human life to gain what is unattainable in any other form of life, self-realization. We should therefore use this great gift of human life wisely by cultivating Krishna consciousness right now while we still have time. Let us take advantage of Lord Chaitanya's mercy in the form of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then the Lord says, fixed in this truth, one sees all beings in common. A dog eater, a cow, and a Brahmin. For one who is fixed in such equanimity, birth and death are conquered with impunity. How is this? One with transcendental vision does not see the material covering, the body, which is like a dress. Rather, he sees the spirit soul within, and he understands the soul to be part and parcel of Krishna, the Supreme. Established in this vision, he wants to serve all living entities. He does not see one person as a friend and another as an enemy, nor does he consider some fit and others unfit for the gift of Krishna consciousness. Rather, he wants to distribute Krishna's mercy, the chanting of the holy names, to everyone everywhere. As a result of his devotion, such a person sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in him. He is always in samadhi, or trance, regardless of his material activity. The highest samadhi does not entail sitting in a corner with closed eyes doing nothing. A person in full Krishna consciousness sees God everywhere and acts always for his satisfaction. He is not a do-nothing. On the other hand, a devotee is never attached to material sense objects, for he is always enjoying the pleasure of Krishna consciousness within. Although he may be fighting a great battle or running a big business, agricultural enterprise, or religious institution, he is always in trance, for he is always concentrating on the Supreme. Because of his fixed determination to serve the Lord, he cannot be deviated by anything. Krishna further states, the wise rejoice not if pleasantries appear, nor can a catastrophe cause them a tear. Because both pleasantries and catastrophes are temporary, a wise man is not disturbed by them. But materialistic men take great pleasure in their possessions, only to suffer great pain at their loss. Such is nature's way. That which gives the greatest pleasure now may soon, under different circumstances, give great pain. This is true with everything connected to the material body, be it family, possessions, friends, or lover. This realization that the greatest material pleasures often lead to the greatest pain inspired the Buddha to reject everything material, including his wife, family, and kingdom, and to go beyond the world of opposites to a world of inner unity and peace. Echoing this verse of the Gita, the Buddha says, pleasures come and pleasures go. They are transient. The wise do not find joy in them. If we want to be intelligent, we must detach ourselves from the sources of misery and become attached to the source of real, eternal pleasure, Krishna consciousness, the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This doesn't mean that we need to neglect our family or business. Arjuna incorrectly thought that he would have to give up his duty as a soldier to cultivate Krishna consciousness. But Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight and win. Similarly, he wants us to win the battle of life by becoming fully Krishna conscious together with our family and business associates. But first we must abandon attachment to these things by putting Krishna in the center, making him the head of the house and the proprietor of our all. In the end, Arjuna fought only because it was Krishna's desire. We must also make Krishna's desire our life and soul. We must raise our family in Krishna consciousness, engage our wife and children in the Lord's service, and teach them to chant the holy names. We must put God in the center of our business, work for him, and give the profits to him for the spreading of his message of love. In this way, always established in the transcendental position, we will avoid material entanglement. The Lord continues, if, before leaving this mortal body of clay, one is able to tolerate both yea and nay, subduing cruel anger, base lust, and blind greed, one is yogi, a very high soul indeed. Desire and anger are the two strongest passions in human nature. It is not possible or desirable to eliminate them, but rather than being controlled by them, we must control them, and use them for Krishna's service. Sometimes they come like a storm, but the storm must be endured. Storms come and go in time, and blessed is one who remains constant in the midst of them. Instead of being tossed and churned about in life's ocean of travail, such a person finds joy and peace within. Some translators use the term nirvana of Brahman here. Nirvana is, of course, an important Buddhist concept, which literally means blowing out the fire of desire. This blowing out leads to that peace and equanimity so characteristic of the Buddha. Such an interpretation, moreover, is very interesting, for it takes away the negativity we ordinarily associate with the concept of nirvana. In this light, nirvana becomes a state of liberation, of spiritual emancipation and freedom beyond time, space, and material causality. This is the real meaning of the Buddha's nirvana. The Gita explains this conception by speaking of the nirvana of Brahman. As Brahman Bhuta is a state of no hankering and no lamentation, similarly, nirvana of Brahman is a state without craving that is experienced by one enjoying the self in Brahman. It is the same experience noted by St. Peter. We are made partakers of the divine nature. 2 Peter 1:4. The same experience is described by the great Sikh saint, Guru Amar Das, as experiencing Brahman, by becoming Brahman, without ceasing to be ourselves. The Lord concludes the 5th chapter thus. Should have paused a bit longer there. I'm the beginning and end, the Lord of all, the face that one sees when death gives its last call. And I'm the well-wisher who stands by your bed, inviting you sweetly, come back to Godhead. Every living being in the material world suffers the pangs of mortal existence, birth, old age, disease, and death. Due to misidentification with the body, those who are intelligent, the seers of truth, advise us to use this life wisely to go back home, back to Godhead. This is also the advice of Lord Krishna. Krishna is, of course, the best friend and well-wisher of all. This is so not only because he is the most intelligent and powerful of all, but also because he is the father of all. As such, he is always thinking of our welfare and making arrangements to help us on our progressive journey back to him. God is so great, our infinite minds can neither fathom his greatness nor understand his ways. No amount of mental speculation or academic research can approach him. He is so great that we cannot even comprehend his material energy, which is but a fragment of his mystic power. Moreover, he is full of innumerable, inconceivable potencies. We have but one recourse: surrender to him. By his grace, this is as easy as chanting the holy names: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Perfect peace is found in the knowledge that we are not these bodies, but eternal spirit souls, part and parcel of God. Peace is also found in the service of the Lord and to his children. The greatest service we can render is to teach the sublime message of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna has given it to us freely, so let us in gratitude freely distribute this love song of God to all mankind. Always think of me.